We're not going to administer injectable glutathione directly through the eyeballs. Don't even think about doing that. Vigorous Steve here, and highlight of recent events with yours truly. How to prevent your brain from melting when using performance-enhancing drugs. And I honestly wish I made this video about 6 months ago before I got back on the anabolic gain train, but well, I've come to a conclusion that it's better to reduce the training intensity because while I was researching for this particular video, everything fell into place and I understood immediately that even though I'm doing everything right to support brain function and brain health, the strenuous exercise is what was doing me in, causing me all this brain fog. Again, research has shown that strenuous exercise increases reactive oxygen species, leading to a lot of oxidative stress. And even though that's systemic oxidative stress, ultimately the reactive oxygen species will end up in the brain, potentiating some oxidative burden within the neurons. Now, again, when you take anabolic androgenic steroids, which is also being researched, I'll link all of these studies down below in the description section. When you take anabolic androgenic steroids, this production of reactive oxygen species is actually increased, which seems to increase with the amount of training intensity that you're performing. So by being on anabolic androgenic steroids and training insane, it's basically a catalyst for oxidative stress. So I'll make this video to address that. Again, I'll try to keep it as concise and short as possible, but the video might still be a little bit lengthy. So please bear with me. That's what the timestamps are there for. Before we get into it, please like the video, leave a comment for the algorithm. And guess what? Subscribe if you like to see more of this kind of stuff, because hopefully from now on, videos every day. Now, unfortunately, the individual effects of anabolic androgenic steroids regarding oxidative stress in the context of strenuous workouts or just by themselves is currently unknown. There's no known database regarding oxidative stress, which is potentiated by particular steroids. Again, there's a little bit of clinical evidence when they're comparing one steroid to another, but the whole steroid family as a whole, that's unfortunately unknown. So let's classify steroids based on how they affect your mood, starting with neutral to good mood. Again, I believe that Leo is going to do a similar video. Hopefully he will use this thumbnail, right, with his brain exploding, which will be titled, The Steroids That Drove Me Crazy. I think by the time this video is up, his video will already be live. I'll link it down below in case you want to see his opinion on the subject. In my opinion, from all of the bodybuilders that I've talked to over the years and my own personal experience, testosterone gives me a good mood. It might not affect my mood in any way in a negative sense, but generally speaking, assuming that my calories are sufficient, testosterone puts me in a pretty good mood. And that mood seems to go up as the dosage is increased. Now, again, keep in mind that testosterone aromatizes into estradiol, which is a sex hormone that potentiates a lot of neuroprotection. Again, it's the estradiol that makes your brain healthy. That's why it's always so fundamentally important to have sufficient amounts of estradiol when you're using performance-enhancing drugs to potentiate neuroprotection and keep your brain healthy. Now, it's currently unknown if supraphysiological concentrations of estradiol are potent enough to mitigate some of the neurotoxicity which most steroids seems to potentiate. So at higher dosages of testosterone and all the other anabolic androgenic steroids, there is neurotoxicity present, but it's currently unknown, or I can't find clinical evidence that a estradiol level of, say, 40 picograms per milliliter versus 100 picograms per milliliter would offer more neuroprotection when anabolic androgenic steroids are being supplemented from exogenous sources. So again, the testosterone is there to provide estradiol, which is neuroprotective. As testosterone doses are increased, I noticed that my mood is increasing also, up until about 2,000 milligrams per week, which is the highest dose of testosterone that I took myself, with estradiol concentrations at the time around 55 to 60 picograms per milliliter. I had a great mood. How much oxidative stress and stress on the neurons or neurotoxicity that is, I'm not exactly sure. Dianabol is also a good mood enhancer at any dose. Again, if you're running Dianabol in a caloric surplus, you get a good mood. And if you're running Dianabol in a slight caloric deficit, you still get a good mood, from my personal experience and what I've discussed with clients. Now, the anabolic converts into methyl estradiol, which is probably not comparable to the neuroprotection that estradiol potentiates. Again, I can't find any clinical evidence that methyl estradiol potentiates similar amounts of neuroprotection compared to estradiol, but I don't see any evidence to refute that either. Growth hormone puts me in a good mood, albeit that it's not an anabolic androgenic steroid. Obviously, I still wanted to mention it, right? Honorable mention for growth hormone. Now, I've used many other peptides. Most of them don't seem to affect my mood in any way, shape, or form, not from a negative perspective or a positive perspective. I just know that growth hormone generally puts me in a good mood, makes me a little bit giddy, a little bit sleepy also, a little bit less productive, unfortunately, but the sleep quality increases. Some people report that they get a better sense of well-being from using insulin, particularly long-acting insulins. Some people note that from IGF-1 at various formulas. But personally, I never really noticed the difference between all of the peptides that I've experimented with. I do notice that either ACG, DHEA, and pregnenolone, or a combination thereof, puts me in a good mood. And again, DHEA and pregnenolone might potentiate some neuroprotection because they cascade into estradiol. And of course, they're neurosteroids, so they regulate memory formation and cognition, energy levels, right? They have a lot of benefits. So again, that's why I always like basically a foundation of bioidentical hormones. You get your tests aromatizing into estradiol. You get your DHEA and pregnenolone, perhaps ACG, which is slightly bioidentical in men, albeit that men don't produce so much ACG. Still, from that combination alone, you already have a very good balance between the neurosteroids and sex hormones. You throw a little bit of growth hormone, insulin, IGF-1 on top. And well, all you need to do then is buy that ebook called Off-Season Cycles with Bioidentical Hormones. Man, the mood boost you will get from purchasing that ebook, phenomenal, right? Will it offer neuroprotection against oxidative stress? Probably not, because again, high dosages of steroids and strenuous exercise is what potentiates oxidative stress, including in the brain. Nandrolone generally makes me a little bit docile and mellow, maybe even a little bit numb, especially if you take nandrolone without a testosterone base and serum estradiol concentrations crash to single digits. Turinabol, I would say, is a little bit neutral. Moderate mood changes, let's say irritability or something noticeable. Boldenone, for example, potentiates some moderate anxiety. Some people get worse anxiety than others. In many cases, you can reduce that with GABA or doing daily micro-administrations or exposure therapy where you're subjecting yourself to situations where you might get social anxiety and mitigate the issues that way. For me and most people out there, DHT derivatives like primobolan, masterone, anavar, winstrol, oxymetholone, they potentiate some dose-dependent irritability. Now, primobolan up to 1 gram, even in the caloric deficit, is not that irritable to half the dose of masterone or a fraction of that of winstrol, certainly not compared to tren or ment. On the subject of the Trenbolone sandwich, of course, Trenbolone, like none other besides halotestin, will potentiate severe mood changes at any dose, 50 milligrams per week, 225, 700, 1,000. I can't recommend it, but well, we've all made mistakes. Tren at any dose, mood changes, severe irritability, aggression, obsessive compulsive thoughts. And then there's the evidence that Trenbolone itself has been linked to beta-amyloid plaque buildup in the brain. And of course, beta-amyloid plaque buildup is what ultimately results in Alzheimer's disease. Meant similar changes regarding irritability, albeit not that severe. People generally run Ment at much lower dosages compared to Trenbolone. Personally, I don't have any experience with Ment. I do have experience with halotestin, and well, a single dose of 10 milligrams, you better head to the gym right away because otherwise that aggression is being channeled to the wrong direction. So if we look at the mood changes, maybe, with some dubious extrapolation, we can assume that the more mood changes a steroid potentiates, the more oxidative stress or burden they potentiate on the brain. Now again, Trenbolone has shown with clinical evidence that it potentiates neurotoxicity, so has testosterone, so has several other steroids. Again, not all of them have been examined, and it also hasn't been examined with supraphysiological concentrations of estradiol to see if that potentiates some neuroprotection when these compounds are being used. Right? Keep in mind that aromatase inhibitors, when abused, will make you crush your serum estradiol concentration. So if you have intelligent use of aromatase inhibitors, yes, you can control your estradiol that way. And unintelligent use or abuse of aromatase inhibitors will, of course, crush your serum estradiol and resulting in more neurotoxicity as the neuroprotective effect of estradiol are now gone. And then there's SERMs, selective estrogen receptor modulators, Clomid specifically, which will send you on a roller coaster of mood changes. Yeah, but sometimes it's required during post-cycle therapy. Again, how much oxidative stress selective estrogen receptor modulators potentiate in the brain, I can't really pinpoint that either. Now, how can we mitigate oxidative stress? We have a lot of different things at our disposal. First thing first, we can always stop bodybuilding, which is hard. Again, and it would defeat the purpose of this video because it's in the context of bodybuilding, right? How can we mitigate oxidative stress in the brain and prevent our brain from melting while using performance-enhancing drugs? So, all things aside, with some intelligent performance-enhancing drug choices, at least the drugs that don't make you feel too moody and are not linked to severe neurotoxicity at any dose, we should be reasonably safe. Again, lowering the training intensity while using performance-enhancing drugs, which is incredibly hard, is going to be beneficial. And then we need to improve our overall antioxidant profile to mitigate these reactive oxygen species which are being produced when training on steroids. First thing we can look into is melatonin. The best antioxidant known to man, especially antioxidant benefits in the brain. Now, unfortunately, melatonin isn't for everybody. I already made a dedicated video about melatonin. I'll link it at the end of this video. Long story short, melatonin is a very potent antioxidant from 3 milligrams and upwards. Ideally, you take melatonin before bed, right? Because it does put you to sleep. It does make you sleepy and helps you fall asleep and enter particular sleep cycles faster. Then as melatonin metabolizes, every metabolite is an antioxidant. So as melatonin metabolizes down, it potentiates antioxidant effects. That happens from 3 milligrams upwards. Some people ramp up the dose to 100 milligrams per day. But for me, as I ramped up the dose to 30 milligrams per day, I basically got borderline depressed and I could not function throughout the day. A little bit of caution is advised. I think 3 to 6 milligrams is reasonably sustainable, but beyond that dose, especially at very high dosages, a lot of side effects can manifest. Megadosing melatonin certainly isn't for anyone. Second antioxidant you can look into is glutathione. Now, there's a lot of different methods to increase glutathione content in your body, specifically the brain. We're not going to administer injectable glutathione directly through the eyeballs. Don't even think about doing that. You would have to do that through an intramuscular or intravenous administration. Just keep in mind that you're injecting so much glutathione in a single spot that all these antioxidants might act as a pro-oxidant. So again, IV glutathione treatment, which is severely diluted, is probably more beneficial than intramuscular glutathione administrations. Still, once this glutathione goes systemic, it will potentiate some antioxidant effects in the brain. When is the best time to administer glutathione? I've been using glutathione for the last maybe 3 months or so. I use once per week intravenous, which is severely diluted, again, at the end of the day. So that's post-workout where I want this antioxidant effect, whether that's in skeletal muscle or in the brain, to take place. And the other administration I do myself, that's part intramuscular and part subcutaneous. The intramuscular injection I do very diluted, and then I do a little bit subcutaneous because, again, a higher voluminous shot than 5 milliliters is not very tolerable in the glutes. So I do another 1 or 2 milliliters subcutaneous, 5 milliliters intramuscular, right? That's about the maximum this injection depot can hold. And it seems to work quite well. So that's 1200 milligrams for me personally, because I also take N-acetylcysteine, 2000 milligrams per day. Now keep in mind, N-acetylcysteine will act as a donor for glutathione production. It has a lot of other health benefits, particularly in the liver. Feel free, if you want to increase glutathione content in the liver, you can supplement 400 to 800 milligrams SAM-E, which increases glutathione content within the liver directly when supplemented concurrently with NAC. Again, this is all going through the systemic route, so it's very, very difficult to really make sure that you get adequate glutathione concentrations within the brain itself for antioxidant status. So you're just going to have to supplement royally, right? 2000 milligram N-acetylcysteine, or a new version called ethyl ester, that's NACET, seems to have higher bioavailability. Again, keep in mind that glutathione, when taken through oral administration, has very low bioavailability, probably even lower than L-carnitine L-tartrate, which forces you to increase the dose slightly. So I found that 1000 milligrams oral reduced glutathione potentiated some skin whitening. So I would say that that's the effective dose. How much of that you're actually absorbing, I'm not really sure. Again, I was running that concurrently with 2000 milligrams NAC, which has good bioavailability, but you don't get to choose how much glutathione you produce from that. Then you have oral reduced glutathione at 1000 milligrams per day. And then there's a new version called acetyl glutathione, which is also said to have higher oral bioavailability compared to oral reduced glutathione or conventional glutathione. I used 500 milligrams per day, and I found that it was comparable regarding skin whitening, which is a side effect of increasing your glutathione levels. But now that I've switched to 1200 milligrams injectable glutathione, my skin is certainly a lot whiter and more radiant, I would say. And again, it has no indication of the antioxidant effect in the brain. The skin changes are purely a cosmetic side effect. In many cases, a warm welcome. But it is of note that the evidence does support that all of these antioxidant benefits of glutathione, regardless of the form or administration route, is highly beneficial for brain health. Injectable glutathione hasn't been studied. In the context of brain health, there's no established dosing protocol for brain health, but there is some scientific evidence that supports the use of injectable glutathione in other medical conditions. 600 milligrams injectable glutathione given every other day for 2 months improved sperm motility and morphology. Injectable glutathione through intravenous administrations for patients suffering from Parkinson's disease was shown to relieve their condition at dosages of approximately 1400 milligrams 2 times to 3 times per week. And oral reduced glutathione is currently being evaluated in cases of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease as dosages of 300 milligrams per day. Now, personally, I took 2000 milligrams NAC, 1000 milligrams oral reduced glutathione, and 400 milligrams SAMe to increase glutathione content within the liver. And in my case, resolving my non-alcoholic fatty liver disease still took way longer than expected. So take this evaluation with a grain of salt. And again, this is all being studied in other cases besides the brain. Still, the antioxidant properties of glutathione are substantial. You'll have to decide which administration route and which form of glutathione is going to suit your needs the most. Vitamin C, another highly potent antioxidant. It's said to be so potent that it will mitigate all of your gains, which I've already debunked in a previous video. Personally, I take 6,000 milligrams of vitamin C per day because it contributes to collagen synthesis. It acts as a donor for proline and glycine. Vitamin C is also involved in dopaminergic and glutamatergic neurotransmission and helps to regulate the release of catecholamine and acetylcholine from the synapses between the neurons. So it's very important that sufficient amounts of vitamin C are present in the body alongside glutathione. I feel that 2000 milligrams vitamin C is more than sufficient. But again, if you're using vitamin C for collagen deposition, then you might want to ramp up the dose to maybe 5000 milligrams per day or higher, right? Personally, I take 6000 milligrams per day, and I'm enjoying all of its antioxidant properties and none of its supposedly anabolic diminishing returns. So don't worry about that. The antioxidant benefits of vitamin C far outweigh whatever potential negative effect vitamin C might have. Again, supplementation, I would prefer vitamin C is Ester-C, which is calcium ascorbate. A calcium ascorbate vitamin C with a bioflavonoid complex seem to have the best bioavailability and a more potent antioxidant effect compared to conventional ascorbic acid or other versions of vitamin C. Another highly potent antioxidant with a ton of clinical literature to support its beneficial effects for the health of your brain and antioxidant status within the neurons is vitamin E. Again, plenty of clinical evidence to support it. There's several different versions out there. Most commonly, we take the mixed tocopherols and tocotrienols. Alpha-Tocotrienol specifically protects against the formation of reactive oxygen species within the mitochondria of the neurons. And in this sense, alpha-tocotrienol protects against neuronal cell death. So in this sense, alpha-tocotrienol prevents premature apoptosis of the neurons and can be considered an anti-aging and longevity supplement. Again, most of the tocopherols and tocotrienols that are contained within a complex vitamin E formula will have some potent antioxidant properties. Not all of them have been examined in the context of brain health or antioxidant status within the brain. So if you want to specify, you can go with an alpha-tocotrienol formula or a gamma-E complex formula, which contains 4 different kinds of tocopherols and 4 different kinds of tocotrienols. I would say that when you're training insane and using anabolic androgenic steroids, and you're in a little bit of a reactive oxygen species scenario, I would say that between 200 to 400 IUs of a gamma-E complex is more than sufficient to sustain antioxidant status within the brain. Again, there's several different dosage recommendations for alpha-tocotrienol. I would advise everybody to do their own research before you decide on a particular dosages. And then the last thing I want to address in this video are a few over-the-counter supplements which are associated with brain health, cognition, mood, well-being, and have an antioxidant effect in the brain. Again, I will release another video about neurogenesis and whether that's through supplementation or increasing neurogenesis through the serotonergic system, right? There's several different drugs which are involved to increase neurogenesis, being the cerebrolysine, Semax, Selank, Dihexa, or several different kinds of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which also promotes neurogenesis in the long term. I'll make a separate video about that. This video is mostly in the context of improving antioxidant status within the brain, which is of course highly beneficial when you're training a lot on performance-enhancing drugs. The supplements I want to briefly run past you are vitamin B6, B9, B12, again, melatonin, albeit at moderate dosages, caffeine, ubiquinol, resveratrol, acetyl L-carnitine, L-theanine, omega-3 fatty acids, curcumin, specifically a C3 complex, a phosphatidylcholine, CDP-choline, or alpha-GPC, all for choline content, which is of course a neurotransmitter, being very prominent in the brain, uridine 5-monophosphate, ashwagandha root extract or yerba mate extract, panax ginseng, lion's mane, cordyceps, reishi, maitake mushrooms. And all of these supplements have moderate to very noticeable effects on cognition, brain health, and can potentiate some antioxidant properties. These are all highly beneficial to consider when you're using performance-enhancing drugs and want to keep your brain as healthy as possible. Sleeping according to your circadian rhythm, a bit of a no-brainer. I mean, I've been faulting on this myself by going to bed later and later and later and sleeping less and less and less. Meditation is beneficial. Reducing stress from your life is beneficial for brain health. Again, these 3 things don't necessarily have to do with training and using performance-enhancing drugs. But if you're doing both, ideally you sleep according to your circadian rhythm. Ideally you meditate here and there. And there's multitude forms of meditation. I consider driving around the city to be meditation or cleaning the house meditation. And other people would need to, right, properly meditate in a room without outside influence and really turn into themselves and flatline their thoughts, right? Reducing stress, a multitude of different ways to do that. A ketogenic diet or low-carb diet that promotes ketosis, right? Highly beneficial for brain health and cognition. And then there's also red light therapy. I think that pretty much covers it for this video. Again, plenty of different methods to improve antioxidant status in the brain and mitigate some of these reactive oxygen species, which seem to increase from strenuous workouts, which is then exacerbated by the use of anabolic androgenic steroids and perhaps some other performance-enhancing drugs. I really hope this helps. Stay tuned for the next video. I'll drop that in a few days. And if you're not subscribed yet, now would be a very good time to do so. so you get that video as soon as it drops, so you can learn about neurogenesis, brain-derived neurotropic factor, and everything else that video will encompass. Until then, if you're looking for the most comprehensive guides to bodybuilding pharmacology, you can find the ebooks on my website, vigoroussteve.com/shop. Personalized advice, always available through consultations. You can find the rates in the consultations section. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at VigorousSteve. Have a look at my workout clips channel. I'll try to upload workout clips as much as I can physically stomach. Also, have a look at my link tree with all of my affiliates and sponsors that I'm associated with, companies that I highly believe in. I got a dedicated article there called The Ultimate Source List for over-the-counter supplement XYZ. So if you're looking for a supplement that I specifically mentioned in some of the YouTube videos, have a look at that article, type in the supplement, right? You Control F, you get that little search panel in the Chrome or Internet Explorer or whatever internet browser you're using. You get a little search function. You type in whatever supplement you're looking for, like vitamin C, for example, or vitamin E, or Panax Ginseng, or whatever I discussed in this video. Type it in, and you'll probably get a list with a link and a discount code through one of the affiliates or sponsors that I'm working with, right? You don't have to look far. A couple clicks, you're there, and you can get this supplement on a discount and save yourself some money in the process if you want to protect your brain from all of this abuse. Right? I'll link all of the supplements that I discussed in this video down below in the description section for easy access. Until the next video, Vigorous crew, a front double bicep for you guys. Thank you for all of your support, your likes, your comments, fueling the algorithm, getting me to 50,000 subs. Fingers crossed, pretty damn soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.